is we lose some 70,000 people a year die because they don't get to a doctor on time. When you throw 13 million people off of health insurance, when you raise co-payments for poor people, it is a death sentence. Thousands and thousands of low-income and working people will die because they simply will not be able to get into a doctor's office when they need it.
Things are not going well for Donald Trump. Every single day, he's losing in court, or he's losing support from his MAGA voters or Republicans in the House who refuse to pass his one big, beautiful bill. But it's not just that he's having legislative issues in the House. She's also having a problem with his biggest supporter, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who after her phone call with Trump leaked, which he insisted she not run for Senate. She's making a different decision that is completely backfiring on Donald Trump as she publicly loses it. And we're going to get into that all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into Marjorie's reaction to this phone call leaking and the decision she's making to screw over Donald Trump, I want to start with the reason for all of this, and that is John Ossoff, who was calling out Trump's corruption right here.
We do have to just step back and acknowledge that the depth of corruption and self-dealing and self-enrichment by the Trump family during this term is something that we have never, ever seen in the United States. At no point in our republic have we seen anything like this. I mean, you had Jared Kushner took billions of dollars from the Saudis. You've got the president's family going out ahead of his official visits doing business across the region. You've got the meme coin, where foreigners are directly enriching the president and his family and his businesses. And some of them are being quite open. Some of the folks buying this coin are being quite open that they're doing it in order to curry favor or to gain influence. And the president is selling private dinners and White House tours to people who invest in his family businesses, not to mention the airplane, which is maybe the most extraordinary single obvious constitutional violation in presidential history. It is really mind-blowing. And for the speaker to say that, when it is the explicit role of the United States Congress to investigate and oversee misconduct by the executive branch, when we have all sworn an oath to that Constitution, which defines that separation of powers, and that role for the United States Congress demonstrates that there is no red line, there is no new depth that this administration can plumb that will get these folks to give a damn. They're absolutely committed to defending and covering up for this president and this administration, no matter what.
It is no wonder that Donald Trump, and really everyone in MAGA, at least in Georgia, is so terrified of this race. What should be one of the closest Senate races in the country is one where MAGA is terrified of, because John Ossoff is an incredible candidate. He's been an incredible senator, and Democrats have momentum all across the country. And so, of course, Donald Trump wouldn't want Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was in some polling down 18 points to OAF, to be running. And she is very clearly mad about that. She's making it pretty public, and she did so with a new decision. But it started with this really weird clip of her and her boyfriend right here.
Saturday morning, we decided to go walk and pick up some coffee from Whole Foods, but we walked by a very different area. Marjorie, describe where we're at right now.
Well, this is where I work. So I work down here. This is the House of Representatives. Right now it's the House of Inability because we can't do anything to pass President Trump's agenda. If you were to walk across you walk through the rotunda here, and then you make your way to the Senate side of the Capitol. This is actually the retirement home of the Capitol. Oh, and this is the Gulf of America because we changed the name to the rightful name, Gulf of America.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene, not a fan of the Senate. I don't think that was the case about a week and a half ago when she was thinking about running for the Senate. Now it's the retirement home, when it's all you ever wanted was just to run. But Marjorie Taylor Greene's upset she's making that public, and it's because the conversation she had with Trump about running for the Senate was made public. It leaked in a humiliating fashion, and I want to get into that. And then we can check out the decision she's making now, which is just as bad, Marjorie Taylor Greene snarls about leaked private convos when asked about Trump rumor. Donald Trump called on his favorite pollster to measure whether Marjorie Taylor Greene had a shot of winning the U.S. Senate race against incumbent Senator John Ossoff. And to convince her to stay out, Greene posted last week that she would not seek a Senate seat, blaming the Uni Party as she took shots at that pollster when asked by the Journal to comment on Trump's alleged role in an effort to keep her out of the race. To my knowledge, a lot of this was private conversation and is apparently being leaked. Greene said, "The poll was done by a pollster who has refused to work with me because he says there's a conflict, which means he's working for someone against me." And this has now led to a new bad headline for Donald Trump Greene for governor that could get awkward for Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene passed on a Senate race, but she could still make things awkward for Donald Trump. The MAGA-friendly Congresswoman in Georgia's Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones are both potential candidates to succeed two-term and term limited. Governor Brian Kemp in the state's critical gubernatorial race, Greene, and Jones are also both SDA staunch Trump loyalists, but only ones likely to get his endorsement, especially since they don't share a first name. Whoever does get Trump's nod is poised to clear the field. But that prospect isn't fazing Greene, even after a report that Trump presented her with poll numbers showing she'd fare poorly against Senator John Ossoff. "I don't make my decisions that way," she told CAF 4 when asked about the value of locking down Trump's support if she runs. "I didn't have the president's endorsement the first time I ran, and I beat 8 men in the primary and a neurosurgeon in the runoff. So now Donald Trump is either going to have to deal with an angry Marjorie Taylor Greene taking shots at him, which she kind of has, at least at the administration lately, if she runs for governor and he doesn't endorse her, or he has to endorse Marjorie Taylor Greene for governor of Georgia. And again, anything can happen in any given election. But if Marjorie was down 18 points to John Ossoff in that Senate race, do we really think it's going to be super tight with her running for governor? Of course not. And that is because of this MAGA agenda. That is because of Donald Trump. That is because what they are pushing forward right now in the House, going after your Medicaid. Yeah, and Bernie Sanders called that out in this takedown right here.
It's nonsense. The overwhelming, we're going to be looking at $715 billion in cuts to Medicaid and to the Affordable Care Act. That means, Chris, that according to the CBO, over 13 million Americans are going to lose their health insurance. And then on top of that, what the Republicans are proposing is a $35 copayment for many Medicaid recipients.
Right.
If you are making $16,000 a year, you know what? You can't afford that $35. You are not going to go to the doctor. One of the outrageous dysfunctionalities of our current healthcare system is we lose some 70,000 people a year die because they don't get to a doctor on time. When you throw 13 million people off of health insurance, when you raise co-payments for poor people, it is a death sentence. Thousands and thousands of low-income and working people will die because they simply will not be able to get into a doctor's office when they need it.
One of the interesting dynamics to me, having covered government health care and these fights for a while, is the kind of recipe Republicans tend to use in these budget fights goes the following. Look, they're taxing you to pay for something for these other people, right? Yeah. And we're going to cut your taxes, and these freeloaders aren't going to be able to take advantage of the system. Right. It's interesting to me how Medicaid has moved from a thing that they could make that argument about easily back when I first started covering politics to something that feels politically a lot more like Medicare. It's something that's people understand how used and necessary it is. Does it feel that way to you, that it has more political power?
I think that's a very, very valid point, and I think that has a lot to do with a couple of factors. Number one, the healthcare crisis is absolutely acute. You have millions and millions of people who even have health insurance can't find a doctor, can't afford their deductibles to pay when their deductible is high. So you have a crisis right now in Medicaid, which covers some 70 million people, is a lifesaver for those people. Number two, Medicaid provides about 60% of the funding for nursing homes. So you have a mom or a dad in a nursing home where you need to put them in a nursing home, that's Medicaid. And thirdly, Medicaid provides substantial amounts of money for community health centers. 30 million people go to community health centers. You need that primary health care. Medicaid is there. So Medicaid is playing a role like Medicare in providing care to millions of people. The average American does not want to see it cut.
So you've got, Josh Hawley saying don't cut Medicaid, although it looks like they're going to give themselves wiggle room, right? They're going to define them as things that aren't cuts. And then I want to play you something. Ron Johnson, Republican colleague in Wisconsin, he's been saying this thing's doomed to fail. It's not going to get enough support in the Senate. I'm not quite sure what he's at. He seems to be thinking they're not cutting things enough. But I want to play this for you and get your read on how much this is a bluff and how much this is real. Here's what he had to say.
He only has so much time. But again, I don't want to undermine his strategy because unlike others who are hoping he fails, I hope he succeeds. I hope he succeeds spectacularly. I hope all my concerns are alleviated. But again, so that's why my primary focus is spending. But we can focus on the thing we can do, which is we need to reduce spending to a reasonable pre-pandemic level, and we're not doing that.
Johnson said basically, we're not cutting enough spending. I'm not going to vote for this. Right. I've got a bunch of other Republicans who won't. I tend to think that's talk is cheap, but what do you think about what's going on here?
I think you're right. At the end of the day, Trump's pressure on them and Musk's money on them, if they don't support it, they're going to get primaried, and Musk has unlimited amounts of money to spend against them. I think that will likely prevail.
MAGA has never been more unpopular. This is a low point, which probably because it's MAGA will continue to get even lower, unfortunately, but we have to jump at this opportunity and to continue to call them out every single day. We're certainly going to be doing that on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.